with this last story about Lindsay Lohan's father finally saying that he is guilty for a lot of the problems his daughter is facing, that our parents are responsible for our children's behaviors. A lot has to do with society. That has been one of my biggest problems, is I can teach my children right from wrong, but as soon as they leave the house, society has more of an influence on them than I did. But ultimately, it's the lesson in how you teach your kids how to deal with society, how to be stronger than society. Um, I'm proud of my kids. Don't get me wrong. I am not dealing with my children doing anything severely harmful to themselves or to society. They are kind of stuck into the it's all about money, which I'm kind of against. It's more about family, and happiness. Um, so in that way, that's why I'm going more public with what I'm doing, because it is involved with society and the influences that society has on our kids. What is the cause? What causes society to be so powerful? And while I didn't have all that much control as a parent over society, it's like, okay, join society, as loudly as I am now. It's like now I'm going to be more vocal, more public, to influence society in a different direction. So I wanted to put this out there about Martin Sheen. Charlie Sheen is definitely experiencing a few problems. I've seen a few interviews with Martin Sheen saying a parent must say, I did everything. But has he really, really tried everything? This is so far off the wall. I'm sure a lot of people will hate this. I'm sure it will go against every single thing you believe to be true. But I'm seeing patterns within patterns that keep repeating over and over and over again. And other people don't see the same patterns as I do. They see change, but it's like, same metaphor, you're in a room, you could paint the room a different color and think you're in a different room, but you're in the same room. And that's where I see a lot of people saying, oh, I've changed, I've made something different. And yet it's like, no, it's not different, it's the same friggin' pattern. So the patterns that I see between Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen is, first, they both have the same stage name, where the other brother didn't, and they're not having the same patterns. His father was in a movie, Apocalypse Now. Charlie Sheen seems to be using that word, apocalypse. So while, what age was Charlie Sheen when that movie was being filmed, and what influences does that have on the child? Some of these small little events that happen in childhood develop life rules that you're going to live your whole entire life based on those rules until you change those rules. Now, I'm also suggesting that maybe Martin Sheen mirror Charlie Sheen. Instead of Charlie mirroring his father, if his father mirrored Charlie's behavior, maybe Charlie might see that. So, Charlie is very, very public. He's going very, very public with his point of view and his lifestyle. So maybe if his father did the same thing and, Martin Sheen started having his own winning campaign and used this publicity as much as possible. I don't see that Martin is able to communicate with his son privately, but maybe he'll have a little bit more effectiveness if he does it in the same way his son does and do it publicly. And another big thing that seems to be going on is you will not get past those barriers by saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. as soon as you accuse somebody else of being wrong, guess what? They don't want to hear they're wrong. They have their walls up. They're not listening to a damn thing you got to say. So the same pattern that we seem to fix problems with is trying to tell everybody, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. What about saying, you're right, you're right, you're right? And what are the things that maybe Martin Sheen could be agreeing with? One thing you can agree with Charlie Sheen is rehab doesn't work. The evidence is there. Statistically, rehab is not successful. It is with a very few, but those aren't good enough statistics. Clearly, Charlie is looking for that program that gets rid of addictions. Until that shows up, he's not even going to participate in anything that doesn't work. And that makes sense to me. I would agree. So, if Martin Sheen went publicly with his own winning plan and also said, hey, Charlie, I'm in agreement with you. Rehab doesn't work. Let's find out what does work. What is the plan? What is the goal? What is it we want? That'll probably lower some walls with Charlie Sheen to now start having his father with the same name work towards the same goals that they both want. They both want to be winners. So that's one way of doing it is, let's start agreeing rehab doesn't work. We need a new plan. Another one is AA. Tend to agree with Charlie Sheen that AA does not work. In order to be successful with AA means you have to admit every day you have a problem that you can't solve, but you just choose not to do drugs or alcohol to relieve the pain of that. It's like you're going to suppress everything that's wrong. You're going to ignore. You're going to block and deal. Pretty sure Charlie Sheen is saying, that ain't working for me. I want the problem solved. Even though we're not aware of the problem, we still kind of recognize that there's a problem there that needs to be solved. And until Martin Sheen solves that problem of what's causing you to be an alcoholic in the first place, possibly that agreement would lower the walls of, my bird's going nuts, would lower the walls of disagreement and open up communication there. I'd also like to maybe point out that Martin Sheen is now saying that his fame, being this famous, is creating an audience of voices coming at Charlie that Martin's saying isn't really the healthiest for Charlie to be listening to. So maybe being famous and having all the money in the world isn't necessarily the best thing to be doing. Maybe if Martin Sheen would admit that, hey, I was a little wrong in our life career. I, could see that what I put out into the world had an influence in creating all of this hell that's going on in the world. When you put out a suggestion, when you put out a movie, when you put out an example of how to live life, you create society to be programmed to live out the way you put it out there. So maybe Martin Sheen, looking and reflecting on some of the movies he put out there and some of the suggestions he put out there, may not be working so good and may be the cause of why we've got such a global collapse going on. Being the winner at all costs isn't necessarily the way to go, because guys on Wall Street being the winner at all costs for, as long as you are looking to be the winner for yourself, seems to destroy the planet, seems to destroy the economic system, seems to destroy, the air that we're breathing. Go look at the Gulf. These CEOs are constantly looking for cost-effective ways of profiting so stockholders, earn all of the money. And they don't care whether it's destroying their own backyard as long as they're making that money. So maybe being a movie star that, on the highest rated show, let's kind of look at what kind of show that was. It was about an alcoholic. and we're all programmed to think that that is the most popular show we should be watching. Why? Because it's in agreement with all of us. Why? Probably because we found that, drugs was acceptable. I mean, to belong to AA and admit every day that you got a problem you don't want to face, you just don't want to drink anymore, is actually creating everybody to be programmed into, yeah, we all got problems that we don't want to face. So we're going to watch a show of a man that's constantly got a problem and give him the most money to show us a reflection of ourselves. Don't tell me that Martin Sheen was not guilty in putting some negative films out there. We need to be producing better films, better suggestions out in the world. Martin Sheen's got all of the money, that he could be putting more positive things out there. If he listened to people on the bottom as to, okay, what possibly is a better idea? Maybe he'd be receptive to doing something a little different. But if Martin Sheen is constantly listening to, like Catholic priests, I mean, in Philadelphia, it was reported that there was, 37 priests in that one area that was sexually abusing children, yet you want to support Catholic religion, Bibles, to be doing something good on our planet? This is another little concept of just say sorry to Jesus and everything's fine. You put a lot of hell out in the world that you don't have to fix. You don't have to transform any of the problems that are out there. Just block and deal. Say sorry to Jesus, and then you think you're safe. Well, how good is being safe when you're watching your son going through that hell? Charlie Sheen is definitely wanting to be the winner, and he's saying failure is not an option. I agree with him 100% that we all need to be winners right now, and failure is not an option. We need to be fighting this, but maybe fighting in a different way. Going for peace while fighting is a contradiction. Being a winner while trying to, be against these high executives, being greedy. Don't look at yourself and be greedy too. You can't look like your enemy while you're saying your enemy is wrong. It's a contradiction. And maybe if Martin Sheen went public and be willing to say, here's my contradictions, I'm going to live and mirror Charlie Sheen, and maybe they can have a discussion about what winning really is. Because I think they're both losing. And they need to, it starts with the Father. It's sins of the Father, and we are all doing it. I have been participating in some of the wrongs my children are doing, although they are nowhere near harming themselves or causing any harm to the world. They're trying to fit in with the way the world works right now, which I'm happen to be against. I wouldn't work for old McDonald's, who McDonald's is, trying to get on the bandwagon of Martin Sheen and be that type of winner. McDonald's is serving crap type food. McDonald's is profiting off of doing harm. I couldn't work for that company. That's just sort of one example, that I have these standards now that I can see my kids need to, pay their rent. They need to survive and feed themselves, and those are the only types of jobs out there for them to do. They are educated, and they are doing, as best they can within that economic system. I am very, very proud of the types of careers that they are working within. It's just money is not everything. Family is more important than money, and some of them are guided more around money is more important than family. But just a suggestion. I'd love to see Martin Sheen start his own campaign that he's winning, and start mirroring Charlie Sheen, just so Charlie might see the mirror image of himself. Instead of saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, say you're right, you're right, you're right, and just ask the question, how right are we really? And see what happens. Now that is changing the room. That's not painting the room a different color. That's jumping into something completely different. And different is not comfortable, so I imagine there'd be a lot of hate about that suggestion. But it's just a suggestion of something completely different that might break us out of this insane pattern. I would love to see somebody that has a lot of money actually support a better idea. And there's lots of better ideas, but it ain't being supported by any of these wealthy people that have the potential and the voice and the attention right now, because the world is watching. The world is listening to the Sheens. They have power right now to influence something better, please. Peace out.